Have you ever filled a bird feeder with fresh seed, only to notice that certain birds never come near it? You see sparrows, finches, maybe a few pigeons, but other birds stay hidden in the trees, watching, waiting, avoiding the feeder completely. And no matter how long the food sits there, they still refuse to come closer. At first, it seems strange. Why would a hungry bird ignore free food? But according to scientists, many birds are making complex survival calculations every second. To them, a feeder is not automatically safe. In fact, some birds may see your feeder as a dangerous trap because in the wild, one bad decision can mean death. And once you understand how birds assess danger, you may never look at backyard feeders the same way again. Imagine being a tiny bird weighing less than a few coins. Every day, predators are searching for you. Cats hiding in grass, hawks circling overhead, snakes climbing branches, even humans moving unpredictably nearby. For birds, survival depends on avoiding danger before danger attacks. And that means birds evolved extremely sensitive risk assessment systems before landing anywhere. A bird constantly asks questions. Can I escape quickly? Is there nearby cover? Are predators watching? Do other birds trust this place? Could this location trap me? A feeder may look harmless to us, but to a cautious bird, it can look terrifying, especially if the area feels exposed. Many feeders are placed in wide open spaces. That creates a problem. Open areas make birds highly visible to predators. A hawk only needs seconds to strike. And feeders naturally attract large groups of birds. To predators, that means easy hunting opportunities. Scientists have repeatedly observed hawks targeting backyard feeders because prey gathers there predictably. Some birds learn this quickly. They associate feeders with danger, and instead of risking it, they avoid feeders entirely. This is especially true for shy species. Bird personality actually matters more than most people realize. Some birds are naturally bold. Others are extremely cautious, just like humans. Bold birds take risks for fast rewards. Cautious birds prioritize survival over food opportunities. And cautious birds usually live longer, so even if food is available, certain species simply refuse to expose themselves unnecessarily. One sudden movement, one nearby cat, one terrifying experience, and a bird may permanently avoid that feeder location forever. Some birds even watch from a distance before deciding whether it feels safe. You may not notice them hidden in nearby trees, but they are observing everything, studying movement, listening for alarms, waiting to see how other birds react. For many species, watching first is safer than participating. And this brings us to one of the biggest reasons certain birds never visit feeders: species-specific behavior. Not all birds evolve to eat the same way, and not all birds feel comfortable feeding in exposed locations. Woodpeckers often prefer tree trunks over crowded feeder platforms. Thrushes prefer searching through leaf litter on the ground. Warblers mainly hunt insects among branches. Wrens like dense cover and hidden spaces. Some birds are simply not designed for feeder feeding behavior. Their instincts pull them elsewhere. Even food preference matters. A bird may completely ignore sunflower seeds if its natural diet focuses on insects, fruit, nectar, or tree bark insects. This is why some people believe birds are missing from their yard, when in reality, those birds may simply have no interest in the food being offered. To attract different species, the environment itself matters far more than the feeder alone. And surprisingly, habitat may be the single most important factor of all. Many birds care less about the feeder and more about the surrounding environment. Birds evolved within very specific habitats. Forest birds prefer layered vegetation and tree cover. Grassland birds prefer open fields. Wetland birds prefer water-rich ecosystems. Desert birds adapt to dry environments. If your backyard does not resemble a bird's preferred habitat, that species may never feel comfortable staying there. Even if food exists, a feeder cannot override millions of years of evolutionary behavior. And birds notice environmental details humans rarely think about: tree density, aclasa roots, bush cover, noise levels, water sources, lighting, predator activity. Some birds require dense shrubs nearby so they can escape instantly if threatened. Without nearby shelter, the feeder feels unsafe. Others avoid areas with constant human activity. Lawnmowers, Cars, dogs barking, children running. To humans, these sounds become background noise. To birds, they may signal chaos and danger. And then there's social hierarchy. Not all birds feel welcome at feeders. Aggressive species often dominate feeding spaces. Blue jays, grackles, starlings, even larger sparrows sometimes bully smaller birds away. Scientists call this competitive exclusion. Smaller or weaker birds may avoid feeders simply because stronger birds intimidate them. You may think certain species never visit, when actually they are being chased away before you notice. Some birds even adjust feeding times to avoid competition. Early morning, late evening, moments when dominant species disappear. Bird behavior is far more strategic than most people imagine. But perhaps the most fascinating reason involves memory. Birds remember danger very well. A single traumatic event near a feeder can permanently change behavior. Imagine a hawk attacks near a feeding station. Even if the bird survives, that location may now feel permanently dangerous. Research suggests birds can associate specific locations with predator threats for long periods. And because birds learn socially, one bird's fear may spread to others. Alarm calls communicate danger rapidly. If enough birds react negatively to a location, entire groups may begin avoiding it. This is survival intelligence in action. And ironically, humans sometimes accidentally scare birds away without realizing it. Fast movements near windows, suddenly opening doors, walking directly toward feeders, loud sounds, direct staring. All of these can trigger fear responses. To prey animals, predictability feels safer than unpredictability. That's why experienced birdwatchers move slowly and consistently around backyard feeding areas. Birds gradually learn behavioral patterns, and once they decide a location is relatively safe, trust slowly develops. But trust takes time, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and some species remain cautious forever. Interestingly, researchers discovered urban birds often behave differently from rural birds. City birds regularly encounter humans. Over generations, many become more tolerant of human presence. Rural birds may remain far more nervous and sensitive. This shows bird behavior constantly adapts to environment and experience. Not all birds think the same way. Not all birds perceive danger equally. And not all birds value feeders enough to take risks. For some species, natural food sources remain preferable: insects, seeds from native plants, wild berries, terete sap, nectar. A healthy natural habitat may actually attract more bird diversity than feeders alone. This surprises many people, because feeders are only one small piece of bird ecology. Birds need shelter, water, nesting spaces, safety, food variety, a complete environment. That is why bird-friendly yards usually contain native plants, bushes, trees, water features, and layered vegetation. The goal is not simply feeding birds. It is creating a place where birds feel secure enough to exist, and security is everything in the wild. The next time you notice certain birds refusing to approach your feeder, remember this: they are not being stubborn. They are surviving. Every bird carries millions of years of survival instincts. Every decision balances hunger against danger. And sometimes, avoiding a feeder is the smartest decision a bird can make, because in nature, the most cautious birds are often the ones that live the longest. So if you truly want more birds to trust your backyard, do not just focus on the feeder, focus on the environment around it. Create shelter. Reduce sudden movement, provide water, plant native vegetation, make birds feel hidden, protected, and safe. Over time, you may notice something incredible: new species slowly appearing, watching from branches, landing cautiously, studying the area, and eventually, trusting your backyard enough to stay. If you enjoyed this mystery of bird behavior, subscribe to Backyard Bird Mysteries for more fascinating wildlife science videos every week. And tell us in the comments, what bird species never seems to visit your feeder no matter what you try?